Bem-vindas e bem-vindos ao Entre Margens. Eu sou Valentine Girô, sua host, e este é um podcast sobre travessias. Conversas íntimas com pessoas que ousaram escutar o chamado da alma e atravessar. Aqui falamos de criação, coragem, amor, vocação e reinvenção, do que acontece entre uma margem e outra, as dúvidas, as sincronicidades, os momentos de virada e os projetos cheios de vida que nasceram desses atravessamentos. Porque por trás de cada escolha corajosa existe um mundo interior de escuta, cura e trabalho invisível. O Entre Margens existe para dar voz a isso. E ele é também um convite para você viajar comigo. Às vezes a gente vai estar sentada numa mesa de café em qualquer cidade do mundo, outras num banco à beira de um rio ou no sofá da minha casa. E sempre um convite à conexão. Alguns episódios vão ser em português, outros em inglês. E a língua vai mudar, mas a alma das conversas, essa permanecerá a mesma. Então respira fundo e vem comigo. Nesse primeiro episódio, eu converso com a Jackie Simek, na sala de estar de um apartamento com vista para a Sagrada Família em Barcelona. A Jackie é uma amiga querida que eu conheci nas praias de Santa Bárbara, na Califórnia, enquanto eu fazia meu mestrado por lá. Ela construiu uma carreira de sucesso como coach de negócios e mentalidade empreendedora, mas, depois de uma jornada pessoal profunda relacionada à fertilidade, ouviu um novo chamado e hoje apoia mulheres acima de 35 anos que estão se preparando para engravidar. Juntas falamos sobre o que é necessário para deixar ir uma identidade inteira que já não cabe mais e escutar aquele chamado sutil em direção ao novo. Falamos sobre se render, ter coragem, ouvir o universo e os rituais de cura que podem nos sustentar nos períodos de transição. Então, se você está sentindo que tem algo dentro de você mudando, que está diante de uma encruzilhada, talvez essa conversa seja o convite que você precisava para ouvir o que a vida está sussurrando para você. Vem com a gente. So, the whole idea of the podcast is really about opening the kinds of conversations with my dearest people, people that I admire, that I love, that I have witnessed growing, and that have witnessed me growing. Personally, professionally, because I do believe those things are intertwined.
Yes.
And so the same way that we have done work together, we've also became friends. And now we're just like these co-inspirers who travel around the world and see each other whenever possible.
Yes.
So thank you again.
Such a gift.
Thanks. I guess I want to bring us back to the moment we met.
Mm-hmm.
Because some people live this kind of life where you just encounter the right people at the right time.
Yeah.
And some people think it's impossible
Yes.
to live that.
Yeah. And so it was in Santa Barbara, California, and I was at the beach one afternoon, and this striking woman, hello, walked onto the beach and was sitting near me, and I knew I wanted to talk to you. I was like, oh, this woman's very interesting. Like, I can feel this energetic pull to you. And the water started coming in, the tide started coming in, and all of a sudden a big wave came in and we both kind of had to move our stuff. And I think that broke the ice. We just laughed about it, and then we started talking and found out we had a lot of things in common. And I think it was very soon after you had your birthday party.
Correct.
And you invited me to your birthday party, and that kind of just started our friendship from there, especially going to that party. I think you had been in Santa Barbara only 6 months or so.
Not even.
No.
2 months.
2 months. And like the room was full of all these interesting people. I shouldn't say room, it was outside. And you had a beautiful spread. And I was like, okay, yeah, these are my kinds of people. I was like, I got to lean in here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember noticing you at the day of the party because you're like so stylish. And you could see that you're different because Santa Barbara people, at least those that have been living there for a long time, they just walk on their leggings and their Birkenstocks and their surf clothes, which I ended up loving after 2 years living there. But you were just like classy, New York, stylish. And I was like, oh, I like that. Which then ties to how we continue connecting, which was in a professional way as well, because you as a former, can I say former executive coach? That entrepreneurial coach?
Yeah, I would say like it probably all fell under leadership. I did work with executives, but I primarily worked with business owners. But I think it's people that want more for themselves in their career path, I would say. Yeah.
Right.
Which, like you just said, it's the professional and the personal, very intertwined. And I worked a lot with the human underneath, mindset, energetics, things like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So just like your style attracted me and kind of like helped me see further or beyond from what was the norm in Santa Barbara, I also looked at you as somebody who was like pointing away, to namely women entrepreneurs, um, making them believe that they could make more money, that they could become more vocal about their work, that they could really trust their power and like leverage that to provide a life and a livelihood and a lifestyle that really supports
Yeah.
their beauty, if you want, or their wisdom
Totally.
and their potency even.
I think a lot of the women that I worked with knew the potential of their potency on some deep level. They were like, I am here to do XYZ. I think there was like a disconnect in like the full embodiment of that, because a lot of times you don't know what the next step is. And when you don't know that next step, it can feel scary, and you can kind of, you're like I picture like an animal, like a newer animal being born, and like your legs are a little shaky. They have to grow into that. And so I kind of a lot of times meet people when they're at different steps of the journey where they're not sure what the next step is. And so I help them both. I used to help them strategically. A lot of times, like, people know what they're here to do. I help them craft the messaging on how to share that in a way that it actually resonates with people, so that people don't get like lost in the sauce.
And you talk so much about embodiment. And I remember when I took the decision to do that intensive with you, which was, I believe, a 2-month thing or something. And what was beautiful about it, because it's not sometimes, but most often, and I know that also from my work, the moment you make the decision, things already start opening up and things start unlocking.
That's the energetics.
That's
piece,
the energetics, right? So by deciding to work with you, and I was in the middle of my master's, and I was actually thinking I would take time off from work, or at least like reduce a little bit more my work. But I knew that I wanted to work on my messaging. And by doing that, so many things unlocked. You always had this way with the words, of like crafting words. It was almost like an incantation, That's how I felt, at least when we were doing work. You're calling in the future, which is very much the work that I do. But then just reflecting on how important it is to be taken away from your original place by somebody else. Because even if you are like the greatest professional, advisor, creative, you can't do that by yourself all the time.
A lot of times, like, you get lost in your own sauce, or you can't see the forest from the trees is an expression that people say, like, you're just too close up and you don't see the same angle. Like, you can't see it the same way from that angle that somebody else can see it from.
In your work, you've also used, and you will continue using, which we're going to soon talk about your next phase, your upcoming work. You've used EFT.
Yes.
Right? Can you tell us a little bit, for those that don't know, what EFT is, and how has that helped you in transitioning from the finance world into the personal development, leadership world?
It is the reason that I left the finance world. I studied accounting. I went to one of the big 4 public accounting firms. I worked there for 7 years. By the grace of God, something was guiding my career, and I ended up working in private equity, which is a steep industry to get your foot in the door. And during that private equity experience, I actually quit my job and went traveling for a year. And I had no intention of ever taking that job back. And through a series of circumstances, I ended up at the same desk again, which was great. And but that transition right in there, coming home from backpacking, feeling like you're on top of the world, and then you're trying to find a job, you're living in your parents' house, you're like, oh, I'm becoming more conscious of like my patterns and like what went down here. And I was like, something's got to give, because I can't keep questioning myself, questioning my life, questioning like all these things being
Taking
upset.
radicals
Yeah.
again and again and again.
Escaping. Exactly. So my friend was like, go see my therapist. And in the first session with her, the last 10 minutes, she goes, do you want to do this thing called tapping? And I was like, I don't care what you call it. Just help me feel better. And so she just guided me through it. I thought it was really silly. And a couple days later, the thing we tapped on, which was a major life story for me, a major crutch, I would say, like, oh, this didn't work out. It's because of that thing. It's because of that thing, like an identity almost, a self-limiting identity. And a couple days later, I got a job rejection. This is when I hadn't come back to that job yet. And instead of going to that crutch, that story, that limiting thing, it was like I was reaching for it, but it like wasn't there. I think like the neural pathway was rewired. It's literally what it does. It's not like my, whole life, like I got amnesia or something. It's just that like it wasn't the thing. It was that like 2-3 second pause where I had a choice in what I wanted to say and how I wanted to interpret a situation. And that then gave me like power to choose differently. And that's when I like fell in love with tapping. I was like, what is this thing? Give me more. Started studying it, like all that, and went on a really long journey of a lot of deep inner work because I was leading people in tapping sessions as part of my accreditation. And I just remember going into sessions and being afraid of different things that people might bring me. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, if I'm feeling afraid of getting triggered, there's something in me. So I went on a longer journey with that. And then eventually a couple years later, the whispers were getting louder and louder. And it was like, okay, it's time to make a change. It's time to exit this career. And I thought I was just going to leave and become a tapping practitioner. And I did blow up. It took a little while, but like the business blew up like quickly. Like most people would be very grateful to have a 6-figure tapping business. And then I started to fold in business coaching with it.
Right.
Like the strategy piece of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Which was something that just came so naturally.
Yeah.
So can we do a little tapping?
Yeah.
Like for those that have never
Yeah.
seen, don't know what tapping is, and maybe this is an invitation for them.
Yeah, definitely. You can, you can do it with us. And if you want to get more information, I'm sure like we're going to leave my stuff in the show notes or whatever. So there's stuff if you go on my Instagram page, there's short tappings and things like that. So tapping is a sort of generic term. You can also look up EFT, which stands for emotional freedom technique. And so that's what we're doing. We're trying to kind of unhook the emotional ties to things, because when we get emotional, we're in this like other place, right? The cortisol's going, we're dysregulated. Yeah. We're like not seeing things clearly. Like literally I will like read stuff and then reread it later and be like, oh, it didn't say that. Like I just literally like made it say that. So it's just a mechanism to calm the nervous system. You lower cortisol, which is our stress response hormone. You lower your blood pressure, all those, indicators that something's not right. And then we can like rewire beliefs. So we can work on beliefs, thoughts, we can work on emotions, and we can work on sensations. So something that you're feeling in your body, even pain. People get a lot of benefit from
physical pain.
Yes, physical pain. Because a lot of physical pain, especially chronic pain, is emotionally tied.
Yeah, because it's energy stuck.
Yes.
Basically. Fear stuck.
And EFT is a cousin to acupuncture. So that's what we're doing. We're kind of doing acupuncture without needles. We're using our fingertips. And so there's a setup statement. So you start on the side of your hand and there's a formula to it. So it's even though, and you state the reality of what's happening. So say it is knee. What do you want to do?
Yeah.
I was going to do knee pain, but like, let's do something that you think your audience would resonate with.
Oola.
Like your creatives.
Yeah. Let's say.
Even though I'm overthinking.
Yeah. I keep postponing, procrastinating the things I want to do because I don't think I'm good enough.
Yeah. Okay. So that's
the idea is not right.
Yeah. Yeah. So even though it could be any way, the most important thing is to use the language that your client gives you. So even though this idea isn't ripe, I accept that I'm in the middle of figuring it out. So what I did there is I gave like a neutral statement. The textbook is I deeply and completely love and accept myself. You can use that, but I just think it's easier to use something that's like And that's just the way it is right now.
Okay.
Even though I'm procrastinating right now.
Even though I'm procrastinating right now,
And I don't think this idea is good enough.
I don't think this idea is good enough.
I choose to deeply and completely
I choose to deeply and completely
accept myself and where I am right now.
accept myself and where I am right now.
Even though this idea doesn't feel ripe,
Even though this idea doesn't feel ripe,
I am open to changing my mind about that.
I'm open to changing my mind about that.
Okay, so we just did that setup statement 3 times. And then we would move to the points that are on the body. So each of these points correlates to an organ in traditional Chinese medicine. It's believed that organs also are tied to emotions. So we're just going to do short snippets. This idea isn't ripe enough.
This idea isn't ripe enough.
I am procrastinating.
I am procrastinating.
I don't feel like it's good enough.
I don't feel like it's good enough.
I don't feel like I'm good enough.
I don't feel like I'm good enough.
This is where I might invite a client to be like, and then what will
Feeling it.
happen? Yeah. What happens if you're not good enough?
People will judge me. I'm not going to get as many good reviews as I wanted to.
All this judgment.
I will feel embarrassed of myself.
Yeah.
What will my parents say? What about all the money that I invested on it? Will I
All this
get it
pressure.
back?
Yeah.
All this pressure to get it right, because how can I not?
Valentine's such a good client. She's just running with it. Yeah.
What will my clients say if I'm
Yeah.
not actually running with my own ideas and putting them in the world?
Yeah. All these people that I'm worried about.
All those people that I'm worried about.
No wonder it's hard for me to trust myself.
No wonder it's hard for me to trust myself.
What would I need to believe
What would I need to believe
to bring my energy back to me?
to bring my energy back to me?
Because the truth is, I am very creative.
Because the truth is, I am very creative.
And I'm in the middle of a creative process.
And I'm in the middle of a creative process.
And maybe I can trust that for right now.
And maybe I can trust that for right now.
And know that sometimes I doubt myself in that process.
I know that sometimes I doubt myself in that process.
But I always get to the other side.
But I always get to the other side.
And I'm open to getting to the other side.
And I'm open to getting to the other side.
And right now, all I need to do is take the next step.
It is to take the next step.
And trust that.
And trust that.
No need to slow myself down.
No need to slow myself down.
I'm ready to take action.
I'm ready to take action.
I'm ready to trust myself.
I'm ready to trust myself.
And to believe in myself.
And to believe in myself.
And so it is.
And so it is.
That was such a little mini tapping session.
I love it.
But you can see how quickly you can.
And we can just, our energy already shifted.
Yeah.
Right? We just like calm down. I
You can
got
feel
more
it.
into my body.
Yeah.
It just changes the
Possibilities, I
alchemy.
feel like, open up. It's like when we see the problem, we're so hyper focused on the problem, whereas then all of a sudden you have a perspective shift and you can be like, oh yeah, it's not that bad. Yes, I can just take one little step. My mind is running away from me. And if you, just to give your audience like a little bit of fill in on how I was leading that a bit, is we first focus on the problem. So that's why like a lot of times people want to forget the problem. They want to look away. But what happens then is the problem grows in power. Whereas we get our power by looking at it and it shrinks. So when you were
say that again?
Yeah.
'Cause I think we need to like start landing some of these beautiful things that you're saying.
Yeah. So a lot of times when something's bothering us, anywhere, work, relationships, even thoughts we're having within ourselves, doubts we're having, it's like we want to pretend they're not there. We want to turn away from them. But when we turn away from them, they grow in their power. What we find is that when we face them, especially when we have a tool like this that's regulating our nervous system while we're doing it, is that giant problem that could have kept growing and kept stifling us and stagnating us, all of a sudden it shrinks. We realize that we're bigger than it. We realize we have more options than it. We have different ways of thinking about it. We get that power back within ourselves and the problem shrinks.
And then we become bigger.
Yeah.
We remember, we
Yes.
recenter, we come back
Yes.
home. So like, just to tie back to what you're saying, that traveling is always, I think, as a traveler, as a woman of the world, also this ability to move myself, to remove myself from my habitual place, and then to then come back home is the same thing that tapping does. And so many other resources like coaching would do the same.
Yes.
Or writing would do the same, or painting would do the same. It just helps you.
Yeah. Come back to that place where we have that choice.
So I want to bring here an email that got into my inbox. And the title reads, Important Announcement as I Close the Door on My Business. I've been wrestling with this question for months. When do you know it's time to call it? To end the business that I spent 6 years building and running. Truth has a way of waking you up in the middle of the night. Authenticity has a way of revealing itself to you when you catch your reflection in a passing window. Energy can feel like a current that carries you, or it can drown you if you choose to swim against it.
This email was 100% channeled. It took me about 5 minutes to write. It was the easiest email that I had written, I think, in my entire business.
And then my reaction to this, because I think it was so channeled and so pure, was like, wow, my love, how relieved I am for you to take this new step forward. As I read your email, I too could breathe more deeply. And I was brought back to that jacuzzi we sat on when we had our first conversation about fertility and the possibility of freezing eggs. Do you remember that?
Yeah. We were in this jacuzzi and you had already froze your eggs due to your health.
Fertility journey.
And the other woman in the jacuzzi was 50, I believe, or just about turning 50. And I was 40. And she told the story about her friend who had finally met somebody that she wanted to build a family with at like 47, but because she had never frozen her eggs, she didn't have that option available to her. And so both of you guys were like, freeze your, it was like, getting, I don't want to say cornered, but like, yeah, I mean, just two strong opinions to do it, which I needed
and based on reality, because like, I had gone through a journey of almost 10 years investigating my fertility and going through the motions of it. And I remember clearly, like, I think it was 5 years prior to that my therapist was like, by freezing your eggs, you're giving yourself time to become a mother when time comes back.
And I think I was a miracle, particularly for the journey I went on, because I had most people, if you're going to go freeze your eggs, is like a 2 week to 4 week process. And mine took God decided that this is what was going to be best for me on my life's journey. And so after I went in and I got those initial numbers, and he called me like a couple days later with the blood work and was like, one of your numbers is off. Yes. I'm like, okay, I just wanted to get some eggs out. And now we're going and getting a brain MRI. So, right. And crazy enough, like, you're like part of the process of like the jacuzzi that's like, go freeze your eggs. I'm like, okay, I do what I'm told. I go do my research. I go to the doctor appointment. And then I had your first intensive. Right after I got that call, I was like, okay, great, dry my eyes, go show a professional. And then obviously, like, we're friends. I think I told you afterwards, and we went down to the beach. And I was in a very, can I swear on this podcast? I was in a very fuck it moment. I was like, fuck everything. And so, yeah, we didn't have swimsuits, and we decided to go swimming anyway in our undies and nothing else. And yeah, it was, being around. Yes, I was gonna say, being around you anytime is like this women's empowerment. So I was just like, everything's gonna be great. And I made the right phone calls, and I got in, I think 2 days later to get an MRI, and then they found this little like aneurysm next to the pituitary gland. And thank God for some parts of modern medicine and I ended up being on like a therapeutic medication, a hormone that shrunk the gland so that it could like read the environment, so that the aneurysm wasn't pressing up against it. So it wasn't, thank God, serious to the point where it was like, go get brain surgery and whatever else. So, but it did slow down my fertility journey.
Can I stop you for a minute?
Yeah.
I just want to like give a little context to our listeners as to where we're going, because this is what then has led you into eventually deciding to quit your business and step into a new path forward. So I just want to give that context, because I think it's so important that we realize how much of our personal life and these little big milestones, actually, right? Those butterfly effects milestones can really change the course of our lives, of our businesses, when we pay attention and when we open ourselves to it. So you've used the word God, and God has, asked me, or like provided so that the time would be larger. How has that, kind of, because you're somebody who doesn't only see what's right in front of you, you see the meta level and the different layers of it. Now, from like a hover perspective, where are you now in relation to?
What I want to say is that, like, gifts from God will not always come in gift wrap. They may be wrapped in garbage. Like, you may think like, this is the crappiest thing that is happening to me right now, and I guarantee you there's a reason that that's happening. And you just, like, the divine soul, all that stuff, they don't have timelines. So like, sometimes time has to catch up with things. I remember when they called to like say that there was, that they found something, immediately I thought, I saw myself with like a mohawk and like a big scar on my head. And I remember like in that moment that I understood what surrender meant. Because surrender, I always thought it was like, I'm not going to want this thing, but like, please, please, please give me that thing. Like, oh, I'm surrendered, but I really want it to happen still.
But still control.
Yes. Yeah. So all of that. And so in that moment, I was like, okay, I remember like being like, all right, God, like, there's a reason. If you need me to like be a speaker to this or tell other people my story or whatever, like, I know you've got me. I know there's like a reason for this. And I think like I got it. And I was able to surrender in that moment, because surrender to me is like all options are available and okay. I trust where they're going to take me. And so I kind of got it, but like now 2 years later, it's like I really got it. Like I really, really got the perspective of like what was happening. So I think like,
and what was happening?
I was being directed to a more like aligned path for me. Yeah. I just had to live it first.
I once had this image. I was in Istanbul, right in front of Hagia Sophia, between the Blue Mosque and Hagia Sophia. And I was very inspired by Rumi, right? Where he says, come, whoever you are, between the place of right and wrong, I shall meet you there. And I was in the middle of a relationship, and I was deeply in love with this man. And somehow he, our dance was like, I want you, but I don't want you. And then I had this revelation, like just laying on the garden there between Hagia Sophia and Blue Mosque, which is like the more our heart gets broken, the more space there is in it. And I often think about that. It's like, wow, the more my heart is getting shattered, be it by, the person living on the street that I see every day, and that breaks my heart.
Yeah.
The more space there is in there, either for me to have more love, definitely for me to have more love and to hold more love, but also to be creative and find solutions that will then help that person come out of this, living on the streets, for example. And that's when, to me, like creativity, entrepreneurship does have to come through the heart. Like, of course, our minds are beautiful and they're brilliant. And we've all had our life's experience and education and all of that kind of like synthesizes it all and alchemizes it here. And then our hands get to do it. And our will is going to move us to have the willpower. But unless it's being filtered by and guided by heart, something is missing.
Yeah. I totally agree. I feel like the connection comes through the emotions, not through the thoughts. Yeah.
What has been in this journey, now that you can look back, that we're being redirected? Because so many of my clients and so many of the listeners of this podcast are people that are looking for a new direction.
Yeah.
And are either they have already started turning their ship or they want to start turning it.
Yeah. I'll give you just to fill in the audience of like what then happened. So because my fertility journey was pressed on pause, I think even before I got that information, I hired a friend of mine who I knew was a fertility nutritionist. And so I revamped my entire diet, my lifestyle, what was in my medicine cabinet, what I was putting on my body, how I was eating, all of these things. And then I finally had the retrieval. It was 7 months later, and 100% of my eggs froze. So that's like the journey. I had been running the coaching business while I started school, which was almost a year ago. And it was just all of a sudden the beginning of this year, it was just not working anymore. Like
two conflicting forces, right?
like I said in that email, it was just like I was spending all this energy swimming against the current. And I really wanted to be this like wellness entrepreneur that could run this coaching business and run this product business and then I wanted a non-toxic nail salon. I'm like, I want an empire. I'm also like have done a lot of work to move away from being that masculine finance accounting person that I was working 60 hours a week and like really enjoying my life. And so I think God was like, look, you're never going to build that if I continue to give you success over here.
Which I think it's important also to notice like this, what you're tapping into, like the more feminine ways of creating business and life is not linear. And so it's like nature. Things are already growing under the soil before they actually hatch.
Yeah.
And you can start seeing the seedling.
Yeah.
There are things happening.
Me saying like nothing was working with the business, like the consulting coaching business. And then I was like, okay, I'm just going to put it down. And just like synchronicity after synchronicity just like started happening. And it's just like these alignments started happening so quickly. And I'm one of those people that, I think a little bit of that old programming of like, I can override when something's misaligned and like alignment is BS or whatever. And like,
but when it is aligned,
it's easy.
And you pay attention, it's easy, it's effortless.
Yes.
It just flows.
Yes.
And I think the hardest thing is to stay grounded, because we can put so much of our limiting beliefs and say, no, it can't be this easy.
Yeah.
And so all the pre-work is needed.
Yeah.
The spiritual work, the leadership work. And as we're coming to the end of this first conversation on the podcast, I wanted you to share with the people who are listening to us, what have been the key practices that you've used to navigate through all these transitions, and namely through this redirection?
Yeah. I think the most important thing is to be honest with yourself. It takes a lot of energy to ignore like the little voice that's like, this is my desire. Like I think desires are planted there by God. I'm going to talk about God. I use a lowercase g. I know that word can be weird for some people. So universe, stars, energy, whatever works for you. For me, it's a connection with something greater than myself. It's not religious. It's not through organized religion. It's a relationship that like any relationship, you need to invest in and develop. It's very hard, I think, for people to understand how having a relationship with God changes your life, because a lot of times people don't develop it. And then it's called like foxhole God. So like you're in the foxhole, like in a war, like the enemy's coming and you're like down there, like, please God, please, and it's very hard to think like something bigger than me is guiding my life, has got me in this moment, when you're only calling out in those hard moments. And so I develop a relationship with God through, one of the things I really love is two-way prayer. So it's writing. So I will like write like, hey God, like this is what's going on, or this is what the challenge is, or maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's just like, hey God, what do you want me to know today? But a lot of times I'll write a little bit of something and then say like, what do you want me to see about this situation? How do you want me to show up to this? What do I need to like see to shift my emotions about this or my perspective? And then God writes back, and it's definitely not me writing, because like I said, I don't even love words. Like, but I mean, there is some poetry in these
So let's just
These
walk.
feedbacks.
Let's just walk step by step, and even I think if we can speak slowlier, because
Yes.
for a lot of people this is very new,
Mhm.
and just the fact that we're bringing the word God
Mhm.
can be also like closing.
Stay with us.
Stay with us. You can call the universe. You can call
Yeah.
goddess. I like goddess personally. It just evokes that feminine,
Yeah.
and it breaks the patriarchal. But let's just let's just walk step by step.
Mhm.
You've got your journal
Mhm.
every morning, and
No,
you
I wish
open
it was every morning, but yes, if you want to start to develop, I would encourage like a daily practice. And so I'll write like, "Hey God, dear God," and it might just be as simple as, "What do you want me to know today?" And then I let my hand just start writing. It's like kind of like a stream of consciousness, and it's whatever God. My hand can't even keep up with like how fast usually it's going. Um, I'll give you an example. So I've done a lot of work recently about calling in a partner, my life partner. And I use this book, Calling in the One, profound book, highly recommend. She really asks you to take a look at yourself and to dismantle a lot of stuff. And I think it had a profound effect on the way I was showing up to my dating and the standard I was willing to hold for myself and just uncompromising in what it is that I want. Not trying to be the cool girl anymore. Hey, if you don't want these things, cool. Someone will. And God wrote back to me in one of those things, "You've crossed over a threshold. There's no going back now, ever. It's about to get so good because I can give you so much more now that you know, like you're deserving of receiving it." And then God actually went, "Yeehaw," at the end of it. I was like, my God, it's funny. So
So each one gets the God that they both
Totally.
better relate with, right?
of course, like that's another thing you can do if you're like, hey, like this sounds interesting, Jackie. Like I want to develop a relationship with God. I think it's important to understand what that is
What are you
and what they
talking to?
believe. Especially, I was raised in a religion, so I had to dismantle some of the patriarchal things around what God is and how I do use the pronoun he, like how he operates. Um, like my God wants me to have amazing sex and I don't need to be married to have it. Like those types of things. Like, so there's no reason for me to feel guilty if I'm having premarital sex, which was something that was not okay in my upbringing religion.
Right.
So I think just defining, like, my God, what's meant for me will never pass me by. Knowing that that's how my God operates relieves the pressure from everything. Cause I'm just like, okay, whatever choice I make here, what is for me will never pass me by.
Right.
Like God will move mountains to create something that's meant to be in my life. God will build mountains for something that is not meant to be in my life.
And having that ability to discern
Mhm.
and to fully surrender, I have experienced in my life, is one of the biggest practices in teaching from this relationship.
Yeah.
Because as you said, like sometimes we might come wrapped in a trash plastic,
Yeah.
right? And then you're like, oh, but that's not what I ordered.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, babe, you actually don't really order things.
Mhm.
We work in co-creation.
Yes. Yes.
And it's about, and that's where for me, like my piece at looking into the world with that creativity aspect is like, we're working in co-creation. So like be open to be surprised.
Yeah. I think like if you're trying to create it all, there's an element of like control and force in there.
Yeah.
And it's never going to get as good as it can get.
Right.
Like to me, the most amazing
Okay,
things
can you
in
just
your
say
life.
that again? So if you're trying to control it, it's never gonna get as good as it can be.
It can get, yes. Yeah. Cause like you're using human. Once you tap into like giving some space, slowing down, surrendering a little bit, and like allowing God to do some of the work, that's when your mind's going to get blown. That's when you're going to be like, oh my God.
And your
Like,
heart's gonna get open.
yes.
And you're
Yeah.
gonna love and be loved.
Yeah. And you can accept like every moment along the way, like as it's happening. And then that, if you take from some other teachings, like Buddhist teachings, like that then reduces your suffering.
Right.
because you're not like fighting against.
And you're not trying to like micromanage everything because you know there's like a greater director in charge.
And also like a big part of it is there is work to be done like on ourselves, because
super important piece.
Yeah. Like I think that the level of like some of the personal development work that you do on yourself does correlate to how much you can surrender, to how much you can trust. And 100%, I've seen this over and over again, how much you can allow yourself to receive. Because I do believe there's so much good to call in, to have whatever, if it's love, it's the level of your business, it's a creative project, it's a partnership, whatever it is.
The wealth, the abundance.
Yes, there's so much. And I think we block things more than we need to.
We just need to get ourselves out of the way.
Yes.
Like our mind, human selves out of the way. Because
dance with life.
I love that. You also mentioned another practice. Would you mind sharing that one?
The God box?
Yes.
So I have a practice. I think it comes from the 12-step program, but it is called a God box. And so it's literally a shoebox. I think mine might not even be a shoebox. It might be one of those you go to the Container Store and you get with the little place for the label. Mine says God on it. And whenever something's bothering me or something that like hasn't happened yet or I haven't figured out, or the most important, I think, is when you just have absolutely no effing idea how this thing is going to resolve itself. It gets so bad. And I've been there. I've had stuff happen in my family, my immediate family, where I haven't spoken to immediate family members for months, like things like that, just really gotten bad. And right now I moved recently and I went through the box, and so many things that I thought were impossible to fix are fixed.
So again, you just get a little piece of paper.
So I wrote down, like, let's say like I moved across the country, so I don't see my nieces as often. And so I wrote like closeness with my nieces.
You're like, it's in your hand, God.
And I just spent like 2 weeks with my nieces before coming to Europe. Like it's just things like that you're just like, these get taken care of on their own.
And so how do you then tie back to business? Because a lot of people that are going to be listening to us, they are in, as I said, like how you're now.
Yeah. I think like it's important to understand that you're not going to feel great if you're in either end of the pendulum swinging. So there's a lot of people that I think are in sort of a toxic feminine where they want to just go with the flow and they're like not doing anything strategically. They're not building masculine systems or operations and things like that. And so the money's not flowing consistently, or they don't make money if they don't work, like things like that. So I think it's hard to be in this complete flow state. And on the opposite end of the spectrum, like to be like all from the head, all from like targets, money, goals, and not any of that heart that we've talked about. So I think there's a place somewhere in the middle that is a great place to operate from. And things can take time. And so, surrendering on the journey, reality is reality. If like you do need to hit financial targets to live your life, like maybe you do need a job, maybe you do need a loan, maybe like you do need to ask somebody to like help you out for a few months, like to take that pressure off of you. At the end of the day, business is there to make money.
Yeah.
So we have to remember that we're not here to be a charity.
And you said something as we were meeting and preparing for our conversation, you said something about even your relationship with money has shifted.
Yes.
Because I've known you as somebody who's really taken care of your money and has learned over time to how to invest it and like had a financial advisor and all of that. What was that shift?
The shift is, instead of fearing the money and fearing that it's never going to be enough, blah, 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 it's like, how do I get to use this to like enhance and enrich my life?
And so many teachers around money talk about making money work for you because money is an energy.
Yeah.
Just like any other energy, the sexual energy, the creative energy, the friendship, the love, it's an energy, right?
Yeah. Well, it's just also like nothing's changing about the money itself. Everything's changing about my relationship to it. And that's everything in life, right? It's like my experience of this part of life, any part of life, is going to be about how I'm coming to it, what I believe about it. Yeah.
And it's ever evolving.
It is.
It never
We will never stop until we're meant to leave this body in this timeline.
Right. Well, and I think it's not for nothing that right here in front of us is the Sagrada Família.
It's insane.
Which has been envisioned, channeled by Gaudi.
Yes.
Many, like, almost 150 years ago, I believe. And it's still in the making.
Yeah.
And I every day wake up and I look at it and I'm like, this is what life is all about. It's in the making. And if we plan for the things that we're doing, saying, spreading, the love that we're putting onto things, to people, that it would just continue after we've passed.
Yeah.
Just like his work. Because now, thanks to his mastery, so many architects, so many constructors, so many builders have become masters in their own craftsmanship.
Yeah, I forgot that it's not renovating, it's still building. You just reminded me of that because there is like scaffolding and stuff. And that's what I originally thought when I was walking. It's my third time to Barcelona and I was thinking, oh, they're still renovating that? But now you just reminded me. Yeah, and it is so beautiful, the legacy.
Yeah.
The impact of how far our vision can go.
Yeah. Jackie, I really want to thank you for doing this. This is the first interview of the podcast. I feel like from the day one, we have enabled ourselves to be bigger and brighter by coming together. So thank you. Really, like it's I'm looking forward to what else is gonna be unfolding, for you, for us, for the relationships, for the kids, for the women that we're gonna be touching. I think also you wanted to make a point that you're not only working with women that want to be pregnant, fertility, but like really improving women's health.
Yeah.
Globally speaking.
I see the work that I'm doing. The entry point might be the desire to optimize fertility, but the result is changing the future of women's health, literally for generations to come. Once you learn the things that I'm going to be teaching, once you get empowered, you can't unknow those things. And it's literally going to shift economies. It's going to shift powers. It's going to shift people that are trying to take advantage of uneducated people with crappy ingredients and poisons and all of these types of things. And women are going to be even more healthy, which equals more powerful.
And you wanted to say, like, we were here, now we're in front of the Sagrada Família.
And yeah, that just remembering what you said about this is Gaudi's vision and there's the crane. People are still working on it. And one of the most impactful things of my more recent work that I've done on myself is realizing that I didn't have a strong enough vision and a clear enough vision. And so when you don't have that, when you don't have a North Star to pull you forward, you will continue to just live in the past, or you think that you're living in the present, but you're not. You're just perpetuating more patterns of the past. And so your today and tomorrow and whatever will look exactly the same.
Right.
And so get a clear vision and then figure out who you need to be today to take a step closer to that vision.
And know that you have support.
Yes. One of the things I really got out of some work I did recently was recognizing that anytime I didn't know anything or, something was a challenge, there were people that knew it better than me and I hired them.
Yeah.
And that made a big difference. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Come here. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Obrigada por atravessar essa margem comigo. Se essa conversa despertou algo em você, compartilha com quem também está num caminho de coragem e de criação. Eu sou Valentine e a gente se vê na próxima travessia.